Welcome to another QEDTalks. I've got one of the three amigos here. I got AncientAlbatross, Al, and we're going to have a little bit of a chit-chat. Another little nerd chat here, all things considered. AncientAlbatross, why don't you introduce yourself for the plebs out there? Let them know who you are.
I wouldn't call people who don't know me plebs for sure, but either way, I'm AncientAlbatross from the Cypher Unlimited. I helped found the Discord. I feel like we went off year 5 this year. 5 years ago, founded Discord with Anthony, Spigs18. Hi, Anthony. But yeah, it's been a wild ride since then. We started making YouTube videos and streaming on Twitch and all that stuff, and we have a pretty close connection with Monty Cook Games, who makes, the Cypher system, which is what we like. If you watch Canuck's channel, you probably know a little bit about Cypher system.
I've got a few.
But I'm a big old Cypher nerd, and I help run Cypher Unlimited.
Awesome. Yeah, and every Cypher person that I've talked to, I've had some non-Cypher people on my channels, but every Cypher person that I've talked to, we always say the same thing. One of the big things, the draws, I think, of the Cypher system is the fact that there's a cohesive community. It's not for anyone wondering, they're not officially by Monty Cook Games or anything, but I think that's to your benefit because you guys can be truthful and straightforward. If something comes out and maybe it wasn't great, you can be like, hey, Monty Cook Games, this is cool, but maybe there's a few tweaks you need to do or something. They're not in their pocket, so to speak. So, but it's still supported enough by Monty Cook Games that, they get the AMAs and the giveaways, and which is, I think it's all badass. Super cool.
Yeah, and there is a prime example with what you just said about not being in their pocket, when Unmasked came out. That was quite a time. I'm not going to go into too many specifics, but we definitely had some things to say about that book when it first came out. It's now a stellar book. Now that Claim the Sky is out, it is a fantastic book now that we have those extra superpowers. But yeah, that was definitely a time where we made our opinions heard.
Yeah, I've heard that several times where you guys are like, I love the setting. The setting is great. But there's some foibles about it but then Claim the Sky kind of picks up for that and makes up for it and stuff like that. So yeah,
it's still an excellent setting.
Oh yeah, I mean all the books. I don't think there's I can't think of a single one of the Monty Cook Games books that's actually bad, not worth picking up. There's something in all of them. You can't say that for very many systems that have this many books out for it, and they have cranked out for being a small studio like they are. My gosh, they've cranked out a lot of books over the years,
and all of them, like you said, are even if it's not a home run Unmasked, there's a gem in there, or there's gems in there that you can pluck or use. You might not vibe with some of the mechanics, but the setting might be fantastic, or vice versa.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can, because of the modular nature of Cypher, you can just use it as you please.
Yeah, that's always the super, super awesome part. So I always start with wherever we meander after this happens, but I always start in the same way with every video. I always ask the same questions. How did you first hear about tabletop role-playing games, and did you have any preconceived notions about the hobby before you got into it?
So I think I first heard of it in high school, which was, I don't even want to say how many years ago now. I didn't play it. I didn't play it or anything. I don't really even think I knew anyone who played it, or if they did, they didn't really talk about it too much. I'm sure there was a club or something in the high school that did it, but I didn't really know anything about it. But I think for whatever reason, I picked up the starter set back then. I don't know what edition it was or anything. I remember having a small little yellow, not yellow, tan box or something maybe. I don't know. Either way, never read it, never played it, whatever. I just kind of knew of it. Fast forward several years, and I become friends with Anthony through a high school friend, Julian. And Anthony Spiggs, he runs Cypher Unlimited with me. I don't fully remember this, but apparently we started on Pathfinder, and then moved on to think 3.5 and then 5e, or maybe it was 3.5 Pathfinder 5e, but either way we ended up with 5e. And yeah, that was maybe 10 years ago at this point, or maybe 12 to 13. I don't know, time is funny at this point. Definitely about 10 years, maybe a little bit more, when I started playing in actual earnest. But it didn't really actually fully click for me. Like, I understand you say you get a certain mindset when you play D&D. I'm positive I've said this a ton. I'm just going to reiterate it again. I had a certain mindset when I was playing D&D, and I feel like it was kind of, now what I understand is the spirit of a role-playing game, where you get that murder hobo mentality. And Anthony really drove the point home after one of our sessions. I'm never going to forget this, Anthony. I will never forget you sitting me down, or I think you said it at the table after the whole session was done. But our party had come across some kobold or something similar, and we couldn't understand them or anything, but I think Anthony either presented them as threatening, or we just assumed they were baddies, so we killed them, we fought them. And after the whole session was done and over, Anthony, he tells me, he's like, "Yo, Al, they worship the same God as you. Like, if you just sit down to talk to them, they just needed some help." And I was like, "Oh, I didn't even think that we could sit down and talk to them. I thought we just fight. That's the thing of D&D, you fight them." And that little conversation completely changed my mindset. And then eventually introduced the Cypher system, and that was a game changing. And I guess what the preconceived notion is, that battle hobo murder mentality was, I came into it thinking hey, everybody talks about combat and fighting, and the majority of games I've have seen with Anthony playing, oh, I'll see what y'all are doing, they're fighting things. I kind of had that preconceived notion, hey, this is just like a war game, we're just going to be killing things that we come across, and Cypher completely changed the game in regards to that.
Yeah, it was a very different mindset, especially since you look at systems like 3 point whatever, but basically any edition of D&D and Pathfinder especially and whatnot. 99% of the rules are about how to kill somebody. So that's what you expect the game to be about. And especially since a lot of people come from video games or something, or even just a board game to that type of system, they just think it's a very linear, I go there, I use these skills, I defeat the enemy, I move on, I'm done. Thankfully, it depends on what systems you've been in over time, I say, because even back in the day, there's always been narrative systems, but not a lot of people gravitated towards them, at least back then. It's a lot different nowadays. But back then, because everyone just wanted to kick in the door, slay the goblins, whatever. I find narrative systems these days are starting to, I don't know, become king, but they're a big thing. We got groups like Dimension 20 and Critical Role and everything showing hey, you don't just have to be murder hobos. You can make a cool story out of this.
I will say, though, just to backtrack just a tiny bit, Anthony's games were still very fun. Even though we were basically killing everything we came across, it was still super fun. It's what really got me very interested in the hobby, and then Cypher system is what invested me in the hobby, if that makes sense.
I've said this in multiple different avenues, Twitter, other videos, stuff like this. Although when I run my games, I do tend to gravitate more towards a narrative game or anything like that. I'm not a person where I say this is my only system or this is my only style of play. Cypher is kind of my main home right now, or my main system right now, but I do play others, I do run others, and I do run different styles of play. I've been in I was looking at Morkborg for meat grinders, and I'm making my own RPG, which is it's a roguelike, you're going to die. It's another meat grinder type thing. And, I'm in a Pathfinder game and D&D game and I don't know. It's just, they're different tools. They're different. I want different fun in different ways sometimes, I think.
That's kind of why I think I gravitated so hard towards Cypher after learning about it. That first game we played with Anthony was just so, and then, there was combat, obviously. It was a zombie apocalypse. It was like Big Brother meets zombie apocalypse. We were in a reality show while the zombie apocalypse happened.
That's awesome.
So then we were in this super tall penthouse suite, doing the show, and then the apocalypse breaks out.
That sounds so cool.
That was my first Cypher System game. Like literally, my first literal ever game was that premise. And we were around the table, and it was in my house in Queens, or where I lived at the time with my sister-in-law, my husband, and my sister-in-law's husband. And I think it was us three as the players, or excuse me, us four as the players. I forget who was actually playing with us that day. I know my sister-in-law and her husband for sure. But either way, we were all acting around the table, like talking about what we were doing. I even got up, like, oh, I'm gonna duck out of the way, and like rolled under behind the table, like. And I was never doing things like that when we played D&D. Like I was getting that into the story because of how Cypher System allows you to play out your character, play out these scenarios. I was getting that much more immersed into what my character could do. And it wasn't just, oh, I can kill things, I can do this. I think my sentence was literally, oh, shit. I don't remember what the full sentence was, but it was the doesn't do much foci, and I played like Shaggy. I was basically Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. I was a stoner. I didn't do much. And it was so much fun. And yeah, after that, it was a done deal. I had that whole paradigm shift to that narrative mindset. But then after, learning more about Cypher System and like reading more and learning more about the intricacies of not the intricacies because it's so simple, but the modular nature and how you can really make up your own stuff, I got to seeing like you can even do battle heavy stuff with this if you really wanted to. And I've done like Darkest Dungeon, which is like a high lethality, combat oriented type thing with Cypher System, and it works great. You just got to tweak it a little bit, and that's the beauty of the system. Anything you want to do, like your preferred play style, you can achieve it with the system.
Yeah, I've done that a little bit with my current Sunday group because they started in D&D, and like my buddy Bad Hair Gaming gave them their first introduction to it, and then I kind of like picked it up and I started doing this like rotating cast thing on Sundays for a while before I started Windermere Fantasy Online as one of the longer ones. So they started with D&D, which is like, I mean, you expect what type of gameplay that is. So I thought, okay, well, when I introduce them to Cypher, I'm going to try and break that mold a little bit, but I did it as a gradual, because Cypher's beautiful like that. I was able to start out with battle maps and specifically measured things, and Foundry helped a lot with that too, because they would just like measure for you as you click and drag. And I was able to do this like tactical gameplay, but then for anyone that watches, you'll notice as the episodes go by, I rely on the maps a little bit less, and then I'd use abstract grids. And now I'm like that. I just have a picture and I'm just describing, like I've slowly, as a gradient, kind of brought them into a more like theater of the mind thing. But Cypher lets you do that because you can do, if you want to do like gridded battle maps or something like that, you can do it. It's fine. It works. But if you want to do complete theater of the mind, it works beautifully with that. And
and what you just described is like the perfect way to get these like lost D&D players, so to speak, gradually get them used to Cypher System. I feel like that little nugget you just said needs to be like clipped and shared, because a lot of people have been wondering, like, how do you switch people from this D&D mindset to the Cypher mindset? And what you just said is perfect. You do it gradually. You still have the maps to start off with. You still have the tokens, all that stuff they're used to. And then little by little, you reel it in until they're fully in that narrative Cypher like mindset. Yeah, that's so, yeah.
It's been an experiment. Like I tried to, I threw some of them into the deep end before that, because I actually ran a Kids on Brooms before I did the Windermere Fantasy Online one, which is like, I mean, that's a complete like theater of the mind type of thing. I did find some of them struggled with it. That's why I thought with the Cypher one, all right, let's reboot this. Let's reset the mindset here. We're going to go with what you're familiar with, and then we're going to try and modify it like as we go along. And it's gone pretty good. And even with your guys' things, I've I've watched. I mean, I've already watched most of your back catalog even before I was doing interviews with you guys. But you guys have like sort of a like, you do mostly theater of the mind stuff, but you've branched out. Like you guys have like a variety of different things on your channels that you've experimented with. And
that's again the beauty of Cypher System. I don't think we've ever actually said this amongst each other, the CU guys. Like, it kind of showcases what exactly you can do with the Cypher System if you have the right mindset. Like, you can play a battle heavy like campaign, you can play a completely theater of the mind type game, and it's now that you mention it, like I guess we kind of do. Anthony says it a lot the best. I think he says that he plays all the Gonzo games or whatever, like whatever phrasing he uses, like his Zootopia meets the Godfather. Like he's always trying different things.
Yeah.
And that it is a wonderful way to showcase what you can do.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing with like the content creator YouTube one shots. Like I did the first one before with like Treant Monk and Indestructible Boy and everything. I wanted to show them that it could be different. That's what I was like. At first they're like, oh, we're gonna do like a fantasy to like, you know, because we know it and we're get into it. I'm like, no, we're gonna do something different. And that's when I did that, like they're postal service superheroes and then like completely out there. And I mean they loved it enough that I even got like a thing from Treant Monk being like, hey, if you made this a regular thing, I'm like, cool. And then with the next one, like that I've got coming up that should have like Bob World Builder in it and Dungeoneers Pack and a bunch of other guys. I'm going to branch out again. I'm not going to spoil what it is yet. You guys will have to wait to the video, but once again, I've got some more oddball ideas going on. And this one's going to incorporate elements from first responders because I think that is a not normal thing for a D&D player to have to deal with. So
yes, that is an excellent one to throw in there, and it's definitely. I know people praise it heavily. It's a very loved book, but I feel like not a lot of people run those games on the server. Like that doesn't get like seen a ton in like the looking for group channels or whatever. So it would be awesome to see like a streamed game with elements incorporated from that book. You just got to admit, like, hey. That was from first responders, by the way.
Yeah, it's gonna be a mix. It's gonna have some of the first responders stuff in it, and then it's but like I deal with environmental hazards and stuff my own way. I treat it as its own creature with its own health and stuff, and I allow you to use your skills as attacks. Like if you're untrained, it's only 1 point of damage. If you're trained, it's like 2 points of damage. Or sorry, practice 2 points damage. Then it goes up, and then whatever. So this way, like even in the last episode of Wintermere Fantasy Online, they did that with the dragon. Although the dragon was there and it had its own hit points, I allowed them to use skills to overcome its health because I actually prefer to call it, in this case, instead of health, I prefer to call it its presence. And this way, because I've got non-combat guys. Like I got one guy, I think he's only made one attack. We're on like episode 18. He's only ever rolled one attack, but he's like, he helps the group and he talks about canoes and he's always doing the weirdest shit. But like, so I wanted my players to be able to use like skills to overcome the situation as a creature rather than just having to be attacks and stuff. And I find that works super, super well.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome. I never thought about incorporating something like that for the non-combat heavy guys when there's like a big baddie fight going on that you don't want them to feel useless, right?
Yeah. Actually, for anyone watching, I do have a video on the channel using situations as antagonists. I think I named it. I'll post in the links down below or whatever. But I have examples on how to do it in various systems. And I give the only like clear cut example is the one I did in a Numenera campaign where there was like, they're in the cloud crystal sky fields and there's crystals falling down and they're in a speeder bike, like type thing and like swooping through it. And I explained how to use this type of thing in that type of like high stakes situation without just being attacks. And yeah, I think it's worked quite well. So if anyone wants to steal that idea, fucking steal it. Go for it.
Dang, I need to check that out so I can steal it.
Now, you've got projects on the back burners, obviously, and stuff like that. You've got one particular project on the back burner that you like cozy management types games, and you've kind of got something a little on the back burner you've talked about for Cypher. I know you're nowhere near releasing it. I fully understand that. It's a hell of a lot of work to get this shit out there. But like, what's your interest in doing something like a Stardew Valley, Bear and Breakfast, Graveyard Keeper type of thing in like Cypher?
So, I honestly forget what made me like really keen on doing the idea. Mm-hmm. But once the idea was there, I had to like flesh it out and write more about it. And I forget what I was playing at the time. I don't even think I was playing. I think I was playing actually Atomicrops at the time, which again it's kind of it, but not really. If you know that game, it's like a bullet hell farming game, kind of. And I think I thought of it first in that regards, where like, hey, what if the players work together to protect the farm during a zombie apocalypse? Like there's like at nighttime there's waves of hordes, and then during the day is when they do like the management stuff. I don't even think that version of it like is presented in the book. I think that's just how my initial mindset was when thinking of it, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. What else? Like, what do you find in those kind of games that you would want to see like gamified in Cypher systems? So I wrote up stuff for like cooking, wrote up stuff for farming, obviously, for relationship levels. Like, that's a big part of those games too, for some of them, where you can like there's romanceable NPCs or whatever. I don't do it in the vein of romance. It's just a friendship. You become very good friends with them. I don't want to force romance on anybody. So if you can make it romance, by all means do it. But
plus, that's a weird thing in an RPG to play out. If you've got like a GM and you're like, "Hey, my buddy Bruce here, I'm gonna romance ya."
Exactly. So it's more about a friendship type thing. But yeah, you earn perks and whatever from raising your friendship with them. There's like very simple crafting rules. There's a bunch of stuff in there. I feel like there's one or two major ones. Few what is it, like special monsters, I guess. So like in these games sometimes hunting is a factor. You gotta go hunt meat or whatever. So I included that as well. But there's a chance when you go hunting to encounter a cryptid. Like it's a very rare chance. So I have a list of cryptids as well that I statted out for this. And a bunch of NPCs that help the community, because a big part of the management games is like having that community of people who provide specific services. So there's like the shopkeep, there's the blacksmith, there's was it the fishery, whatever you call those people, that sort of. I'm bad at this terminology. I don't know if you've noticed, but yeah, it's been a labor of love. It's on the back burner at the moment because I don't have access to anything to make it. Like I was using Affinity 2 as a demo, a trial or whatever. It was like a 1 month or 2 week trial or whatever. I put a decent amount of work into it, and then I got a new job, so that completely stopped every effort. Yeah, literally, I haven't worked on it since I started my job at Sprouts, which is unfortunate. I really want to get back into it because as far as the writing goes, I think all I need to write out is one more cryptid, and it's basically fully written out, and then it comes to layout. And for layout, I think I've done maybe 10% of the book as laid out or something like that. It's not a huge book or anything, but again, I'm learning layout, this as I go.
Graphics, it takes a while.
But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I would love to put it out, but yeah, eventually I will buy Affinity again and finish it, or if I'm desperate enough, maybe pay my good friend Canuck here, or some other of my design friends, whoever, maybe to finish it off for me. But we'll see.
Work my layout magic.
I would love to finish it myself. But yeah, I'm always so fucking busy.
Yeah, I hear that. I got too many projects and stuff on the go between the channel and trying to run like the creator one shots, and like I've got like 2 books on the go. Although hopefully Dungeon Slug will be out in the next couple of months.
Hey,
the Cypher like Oris one, my own setting. That's not going to be out till like next year. That's going to be a while.
Yeah, I don't know how y'all, not just you, but you, like content creators in general, have the energy for this, because I basically do it kind of quote unquote part-time. Like, we do our stream on Thursday, and then, I do stuff like this periodically, or like, I don't really make any books or anything. So like, even all that is draining. Like the little tiny bit I do is draining as hell. So like, kudos to y'all who like give it your all, because I can't do it. Like, straight up.
The key for me is rampant insomnia. So you get a lot more time to work on things when you never sleep. So
that is a fact.
I don't suggest it for anybody though. It's really bad for your health and sanity. No. So don't do it.
Definitely rest up.
So part of the beauty of Cypher system is obviously the fact that like you can do anything. Now, like I love getting a beat on people's favorite genres or mix of genres. Like talking with Anthony, for example, I think he's the same as me. He's like sci-fi horror. Let's go. That's kind of my thing as well. But everyone's so drastically different on it. What's like your favorite? If you had a specific genre or mix of genres that you just like, that's what you played for now on. Like, what would be the one for you?
That is such a difficult question, actually. Because Anthony has horror, Dean has superheroes. Like,
Yeah.
I enjoy Predation quite a bit, but that's not like, I mean, that's kind of a genre-ish, but like when it comes to like a broader-ish genre, like I don't think I settle on one as a favorite, really. I enjoy elements from basically everything. I love when things are high-powered, high-stakes like supers. I love when things are spooky and scary like horror. I love when things are traditional like just regular-ass fantasy. We're just crawling through a dungeon. Like, if I had to pick like one that's my favorite to like, that would be my genre that I play from now on.
Yeah.
I don't think I could pick one at the moment. Like, I'm not saying that because like, I love everything so much. Like, I legitimately, I'm trying to think of like a genre I've run repeatedly in one shots, or like I've never run a campaign, so that's not even in the equation. And all of my one shots are pretty different, like as far as like the genre and the settings go. So it's tough. Like I don't ever really stick to one thing.
I mean, I get that. As much as I love sci-fi horror mixed combo, I actually think I've only run a few of them in myself. Like, you've heard of some of the random stuff. Like I did Postal Service superheroes. Like I run completely random games. Like my Kids on Broom games was like, normally that setting's supposed to be like a Harry Potter-esque thing. I'm like, nah, screw that. And they were in like a Japanese anime high school and there was a zombie apocalypse. Like,
I got an answer. I just thought about it. There is one genre, kind of like, I guess this is definitely a genre type thing where I think elements from that genre are prevalent in basically everything I run.
Okay.
Or at least I like to think about it in the back of my mind, and that would be post-apocalyptic.
Oh, I love post-apocalyptic.
There's a lot of elements in post-apocalyptic that are applicable to a lot of different things, like what is it? Crafting, which is a major one. Surviving, like what is it? Hazardous areas, like gases or poisons or whatever. That's a big part, and those two things are applicable across basically all genres and settings. Like, I mean, I'm sure there's other examples, but yeah. Now that I think about it, I think post-apoc might be it.
I can understand that. I mean, I wanted to start a series of videos on like the different genres, and post-apocalyptic was the first one I did a video for. I'm so far the only one. And I get it, because like post-apocalyptic, it's not for everyone, especially with like how intense you get with it. But I find in post-apocalyptic, as much as people think, oh, it's just going to be like action and zombies and stuff, I think the best post-apocalyptics, and The Last of Us, I think, opened a lot of people's minds to this. It's how visceral you're getting into people's humanity and feelings and social interactions. Like even in things like The Walking Dead, like at least in the seasons that were good, it was all about their social interactions and them dealing with the other human. Like the zombies were just a background thing. The end of the world was there, but it was about people dealing with it. And I think that's something that Cypher really shines in, is that social interaction in the narrative. And post-apocalyptic, I think, is a very good genre to show that off. Absolutely.
Yeah, what made me think of it was I was thinking about recent one-shots or games I've planned, and pretty much all of them, or at least the most two recent ones, kind of led itself back to a post-apocalyptic type. So it was Gods of the Fall and Path of the Planebreaker but I essentially had a post-apocalyptic type thing in both the games, where in the Path of the Planebreaker game, they unleashed the ancient evil, at the end. So they caused the apocalypse. And then in Gods of the Fall, it's just post-apocalyptic supers, or, fantasy supers, basically. So I kind of try to loop it in, I guess, whenever I can.
I'm going to make the world end, damn it.
Yeah, basically. And even just to push the point up a little bit further, I already showed you my little blurb for the Gods of the Fall campaign I have kind of in the back of my mind. I took a post-apocalyptic setting and then made the apocalypse happen again. So I guess that would be my jam, I guess.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, I think that's a good answer, because you can take the elements of post-apocalyptic, and really even if you're restructuring it a bit, it doesn't even have to feel like post-apocalyptic per se, even though it's the exact same structure. I get that. I like that. And it incorporates a lot of my favorite stuff. Like I said, that was the first genre video I made out of this series that I'm starting. And you look at the main book I have published right now, Cypher Foundation. I pretty much wrote that with post-apocalyptic in mind. It's crafting systems, it's community building systems. It's about abstract resources, because you need to have resources, but it's kind of tedious to be all right, I've got 13 bullets. I know I never like to do that, so I prefer the abstract resources. And I get that. I probably work elements of that into more of my games than I would admit as well. So I like it.
Speaking of which, I can't wait for Rust of Redemption. Just throwing that out there.
Oh my gosh, yeah. The other book looks cool too, but it was Rust and Redemption was the main reason I backed it. Either way, they're all amazing. I would not say no to any single one of them. Every book has been great. Every book has been great. But yeah, no, I am looking forward to it. Probably both books. I think the last time I ran a full post-apocalyptic game, aside from the Kids on Brooms thing, because that was its own thing. The apocalypse was Magic Returning, so. That's kind of both of those books together if I were to do that again. So yeah, they both might be very handy in the same game for me, all things considered. So I like to do another thought experiment as well, because I find this we always talk about RPG books, just specifically the role-playing game books and the setting books that we like and everything like this. But I think it's important to get a bead on a person of what about non-RPG books. So let's do the standard whole, you're on a deserted island. You've got 3 books with you, but they can't be role-playing game books or role-playing game book related. What books would you bring on a deserted island?
All right, I don't know if you're trolling me or because I know I say in all my videos I don't read. I'm horrible at reading.
Oh yeah, I know.
So I will think about this. So there are
they don't have to be novels. They could be schematic, books on how to do carpentry or something, anything.
So no. So it would be for entertainment purposes, right? So when you're talking about the deserted island, you talk about books. It's something that you're going to be reading for entertainment, because it's not going to help you survive. It's not. You're not going to survive a deserted island with 3 books. All right. I don't care how good these 3 books are. You're not going to survive if you don't have any background in survival, unless you're hella lucky. Because if I was on a deserted island with 3 books on how to survive word for word, I would die. 100%.
Okay.
100%. Those books are not helping me survive. But back in the day when I was trying to read for fun, I did read Ender's Game, which I enjoyed quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
I would definitely have that up in the mix.
Have you read any of the other books in that series, or just?
Yeah, I read all the first 3 main ones. I didn't read the Bean Saga or whatever. I know they made another series that focused on Bean. I didn't read that one, but I read the first.
I didn't either.
They were all fantastic. It was amazing. It's such a great series. It's funny recommending a book. If you haven't read Ender's Game, go out and read it. It's really good. That's one I'd probably bring just for nostalgia's purpose. Hey, I read this. I know this story. This is something I could probably. I enjoyed it. Something I know I enjoy or would enjoy. As far as the other 2 books go, I'm blanking on other books I've read. Quite frankly, I'm trying to think about books I've enjoyed in the past and have sit down and read, and
What
drawing
about books you've heard of that maybe you've wanted to read? Like, are there any books you've like other people have mentioned, maybe famous books?
So I know one for sure. Well, not one for sure, but I guess one genre or type of book, I guess, would be something about the universe or stars or space. I like reading about that stuff.
Okay.
A while back, I'm talking about 10 plus years ago, I picked up a book, I think, about time and space by Michio Kaku. And that was I didn't finish it because, again, I'm horrible at reading, but what I did read was very interesting. Like, I enjoy reading about that sort of stuff, and even hypotheticals, or, you know, or people like that describing like extremes, like whatever, you know, circumstances that could arise in space, like very obscure, what is it, cases maybe. Space stuff fascinates me. So I guess any sort of like real life space, and also philosophy. I would definitely would like some sort of philosophy, but I enjoy philosophy quite a bit. I only went to college for literally one semester. I did not go to college at all. But when I was in college, I took philosophy, aced it. It was my favorite class. I really enjoyed this discussion between like these hypothetical or thought experiment type situations. That I really enjoyed. So it would probably be a philosophy book, space book, and Ender's Game.
So something that gives you like some entertainment with Ender's Game, but it sounds like the other books kind of are to help spark your thought processes and keep you entertained even after you're done the book, that's a cool answer. I like that.
Yeah, if you're thinking about it in that regards, once I learned from those other two books, the philosophy and, you know, especially philosophy, you're going to be on that island a long time by yourself. Yeah. You're going to have all these crazy thought experiments to have, because what other entertainment do you have? And then with the Space and Stars book, I could even observe things in the sky depending on what book I was reading. Like, oh, hey, that's what I just read about. And, you know, there's additional entertainment or whatever to be had from those books aside from just reading them.
I'm a big space buff myself. I get it. I love that stuff. I absolutely on like Reddit and Twitter and everything, like my YouTube, I have so many space channels and everything that I'm signed up for. Just understanding the universe, it's just amazing. I absolutely get that.
It is definitely a topic that is endlessly fascinating. Like there's so much out there. It's mind-boggling.
It's humbling in a lot of ways. It kind of like, it almost goes into the philosophy bit. Like whenever I see people like whinging about the stupidest shit or arguing or whatnot, I always say the same thing. Go listen to Carl Sagan's A Pale Blue Dot and tell me it matters anymore.
And funny enough, now that you mentioned that, there was of all websites, a You're the Man Now Dog page. If you you know that website?
I don't.
So it is kind of a looping audio GIF site in a way. So like it was just literally like a GIF would sound and it would loop. Sometimes they're very long, sometimes they're short. It was kind of like a GIF forum, basically. Not even a forum. People just posted things like a very early before Vine with video. They're like, let's do it with GIFs or something. Yeah, basically. And the name of the website came from, I guess, the first post or whatever of it. It was "You're the Man Now, Dog." It's Sean Connery telling that to someone in some movie.
Sounds like it was from back in the same days as like I Can Has Cheeseburger and all of that.
Yeah, that time period. Yes, literally. And there was a Pale Blue Dot one, and it was literally just an image of that image, the Earth from far away and that tiny beam. And it was just some really nice music. And it wasn't even Carl Sagan talking about it. It was just his speech in text on it. Okay. And it was really somber music and the text and that still image. And I would watch it like often. Like this wasn't something I would like, oh, that was a nice video I saw, or that was a nice little clip. I would come back to watch that often. And it would make me cry, like quite literally. I would be like, oh my, like, wow. And yeah, it's space is definitely once you get into the nitty gritty of it, it is quite a humbling thing.
For anyone wondering what we're talking about, like just Google it or go into YouTube and just search like Carl Sagan Pale Blue Dot, because it's a video I rewatch fairly often. If I feel overwhelmed or I need to recenter myself or something. Despite the fact that some people feel like it actually makes them feel small and insignificant. At the same time, I feel like it's just I'm part of something bigger when I watch it. There's something about Carl Sagan's speech with that just makes you feel like, you know what, all of this and we're here. It just feels tremendous. So yeah, just I don't know. I think it's a really neat thing.
Yeah, I definitely recommend it. I wonder if that website is even still around. I'm going to look at it later. I'm going to look for it later.
You'd be surprised what's still around. I remember there was a website we thought was super funny back in the day called Zombo.com. It was Zombo.com.
I remember Zombo.
You can do anything at Zombo.com. Anything is achievable at Zombo.com. It still exists. I went there just like yesterday to see if it still exists. It's still a thing. It has not changed whatsoever. It's still the same weird like colored circles. And it's like the inachievable is achievable at Zombo.com. It's like it's still there after all these years.
Oh my god! Now you got me thinking about that era of the internet with like I'm gonna throw some random like Joe Fly, if you remember that. That was stupid ass cartoons online.
Yeah.
I'm blanking on some other dumb stuff, but that was another like stupid ass website at the time. Homestar Runner at its peak.
At its peak, yes, with the Trogdor and everything like that. We're old. Yeah, getting old. That's like late 90s like internet. So
I've been on it a long time.
that was like when video like it wasn't, you don't really watch a lot of video. It was more like the flash animations because they would load a bit faster. That's why everyone's like, you know, the early Newgrounds, that type of thing. Whew. Yeah. Different times. So obviously, very different times now. You are running a large Discord community. I kind of went over some of this stuff with Anthony before when I did my QEDTalks with him. I think you guys were still, you were hovering around the 3,000 people mark, maybe just under it or something at the time. You guys have exploded since then. You have a large community now. Like, what are the challenges of running this, like, you've got thousands of people.
So I say the biggest challenges, I guess, bots. That's a big challenge. I know that's not the answer you were looking for, but that was actually a huge problem that I had to put a lot of effort into trying to solve, and partly solved it. And then people had issues, but either way, that is a challenge. Is moderation, I guess, is the bigger issue. Is moderation.
Which, shout out to your mod team. Every single one of them has been amazing.
Yes, big shout out to all the golden ones. Shar, Eileen, Synth, Dissonant, Mike. I feel like I'm missing two. Ollie. Either way, though, I'm
sorry if we missed you. We love you.
The moderation is actually a pretty small part of the server. I've mentioned this many times, but the Cypher Unlimited Discord community has some of the lowest amount of toxicity I've seen in any online community. I've been a part of online communities basically my entire life, basically since I've been on the internet. And there's always a level of toxicity, of one-upsmanships, of, you know, whatever have you that causes heated debates, arguments, people swearing at each other, whatever. It's as old as time. It's as old as internet. But on Cypher Unlimited, it's actually pretty tame. Like, when there's arguments, they're civil. People have actual discussions instead of flat out fuck you. It's not like they have actual discussions instead of arguments.
I think the worst I've seen is just like it ending with like, all right, we're going to agree to disagree. And like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And Anthony attributes it to, and I guess we should all attribute it to that. I think a lot of the Cypher community is older people, not to say that we're old or anything, but I think that the average age of the people on the server is a little higher than most online communities, and that definitely helps. Yeah. Not to say that there's no youngsters or anything on the server.
No, there's a few.
Yeah, there's definitely a few, and but that, I think it definitely helps. But so it's not really a huge challenge to actually moderate the Discord. I feel like in these 5 years, I think we've had to ban 3 people. I'm talking to real people, not bots or anything.
Yeah.
I'm talking about people with who are problematic, who broke rules, whatever.
That's an
Probably
insanely low amount.
Yeah,
for a server with thousands of people like this, that's ridiculously low.
Yeah, it's actually not a huge challenge to actually run the Discord because it's so level-headed. Like, everyone's so chill, and again, when there are arguments, they either discuss it civilly, or like you said, if they can't, they'll say, hey, you know what, agree to disagree, I'm going to bow out. And they don't continue it, which is what a mod would usually step into, like, hey, guys, agree to disagree, stop it. But instead, the members do it themselves. They're like, oh, we're not going to come to any amicable, resolution here. I'm just going to bow out, and that's how adults should have their discussions. And
theoretically,
you see it all the time. So there actually have not been a ton of challenges as far as the community goes. It's more the challenges come from organization, I guess, like making sure the Discord is set up properly with the right channels and the right roles and the right whatever have yous. But the community itself has not really come with a lot of challenges. I don't think Anthony might say otherwise, or whoever else might say otherwise, but actually, I don't think they would say otherwise. I don't think anyone would disagree with what I'm saying. It's been pretty chill. These 5 years have been pretty, aside from, there's a lot more conversation to, try to be a part of. If you want to be a part of all the time, that is, I guess, a challenge, quote unquote, but that's not really a challenge. Like FOMO at best, is fear of missing out at best. Like, so yeah, it's actually been quite nice running the server, and even as it's exploded this past year with the OGL nonsense, it's still been pretty much the same, just with more people.
Yeah. I think, like, once again, I guess to proselytize Cypher as we do, just because I like the system. I think part of it also has to do with the way the type of system that it is. Like, you go to a D&D or Pathfinder or something like that, they'll be like arguing about the rules. It's like, but the rules say this and the rules say that. But the thing is, Cypher's not like that. The rules are almost secondary because the Cypher's all about like Lego bricks, like building blocks. Every table plays dramatically different, and that's the expectation. So I think you don't get the same thing as even like video games or other tabletop RPGs or something, because you're not expected to have very stringent, like, no, you play this way. So yeah, people aren't arguing about that.
Yeah. In our community, in the Cypher community, it's not, hey, the rules say this. It's, hey, the rules say this. I play it like this. They play it like that, and it all is perfect.
Yeah. And there's been plenty of times I've said, oh, I play it like this, and someone's like, well, have you tried playing it like that? And I'm like, I have not, but I'm going to now. Like,
exactly. It's a huge community of collaboration.
Yes.
Put it like TLDR. Like, everybody is working together. And again, not to say there isn't. That sentence is horribly constructed. Let me start over.
I'm not editing that. It's all staying in.
There's still great conversations, just regular old friends being friends conversations. But a lot of the conversation on the server is that collaboration. Like, hey, I'm running this kind of game.
Yeah,
I have these kind of ideas. What do you guys think? Or like, what could I do to enhance it? Or like, what optional rules you think would enhance that? It's all this collaboration, and it's fantastic. It's never like, hey, I run my game this way, you should run your game my way because it's the right way. It's like, hey, you could try it this way, but also this way works too.
Yeah.
Or the way you're running it sounds fine too, but have you considered? Like, it's all very chill. Like, it's awesome. It's so nice.
I think the closest thing I've seen to a real argument on there so far is that time that I said that there's a right way to put the toilet paper on the toilet paper holder, and people lost their minds.
Yeah, no. Yeah, we definitely
it's a hot button issue.
I remember that, and yeah, thankfully that it basically is the extent of we have faux arguments.
And then it was fun.
Like, yeah, exactly. Like, it's for funsies. Like,
it's not a real argument.
Yeah, and yeah, I'm very thankful for that. I don't know if I pushed that point across as much as I have while discussing the community and the ease of running it, but I am super duper appreciative that it's this lax to oversee. As I mentioned earlier, I'm usually quite busy. I have a family at home, full-time job. Yeah, and then we do the videos, and I don't have a super ton of free time. And when I do have free time, I'm very appreciative that I don't have to spend a ton of it on the server policing what members are doing, because everybody's chill.
That would be hard. All three of you guys are super busy these days. And Anthony's had a billion life things happen. Dean's basically splitting himself amongst multiple things right now. It would be difficult if you didn't have the team under you and a good community that is to a degree, I think, self-policing a little bit. Because I find if someone starts to push the buttons even before the golden ones have to come in, a lot of times people will be like, hey, now, wait a minute.
Yeah, so I will say that, yes, that there are regulars on the server who act as pseudo mods. I won't drop any names to not put pressure on anybody, but there's definitely regulars who will step up to do that if the golden ones or whoever else, like us three, the trio, are absent. People are level-headed, and if they see things getting out of hand, they'll step in and continue to help things be level-headed. And I appreciate that heavily. And again, a huge shout out to the golden ones for doing what they do, when things arise, because a lot of times me, Dean and Anthony are generally away from their computers or phones. So we're not the first responders to circle back.
For sure.
Yeah. So thank you, golden ones.
All amazing. We love you guys so much. All right. So I normally end these videos with we'll take some community questions and we'll do them together. We should get on this, as I realize time is just melting away. It's already been almost an hour. So
really?
Yeah. Time is just, it always gets away on me, but I think we've had a very good conversation so far. As normally it's half an hour to 40-minute point. I'm like, all right, we got to get on this. So already it's almost an hour and I'm like, I haven't even done this yet. So we should probably get on that. Now before I get into the other community questions, I also had one on Twitter here. It would have been smart if I'd written this down. Okay. So, I don't know if they want me to use their handles that they have in the Cypher Unlimited community or anything. So I'm just going to go with the Twitter handle that they use, because I don't know how they feel about it. So I'm going to go with JR Brabson, for commission artist, asking, what is the quirkiest foci that you can think of?
Official or one we make up?
I don't know. They just said the quirkiest foci that they can think of.
All right, so I'm going to because this has been in the back of my mind forever, and I don't think I'm ever going to write it down, even though I should just put it out there for people to use. Right. I've been toying with the idea of a really quirky, goofy focus called, what is it? I'm blanking on what I called it now. Oh, fuck. But essentially is exceptionally average. Right? Okay. And the premise is, instead of rolling a d20, you roll 3 d6s. So you can never get a natural 20, obviously, because you can only roll high as a 20, and you can't really roll a 1. You'll always succeed on a difficulty 1 test. You're exceptionally average. You'll never fail a difficulty 1 test ever, right? And the premise is you eventually start getting better at things, right? Okay. So one of the tier advancements is add 1 to your roll, so now you can get 19s. And eventually, I haven't worked it out at all, as far as specific mechanics go. That's just the general idea.
Yeah, because the bell curve on 3d6, you would generally roll average.
So exceptionally average is the concept of a quirky foci, where you use 3. And another basis of the foci is, again, your average, right? Mm-hmm. So a huge downside to the foci, because, with rolling 3d6, you have a pretty good chance of rolling higher or whatever, right? So the downside is you can't be specialized at anything, right? You can only be trained. And then eventually, in one of the tiers, hey, pick 1 skill to be specialized. You're exceptionally average.
That sounds really cool. That sounds really cool. I like that. Because the doesn't do much is when I like that one. So this is kind of the same feeling to it. But
Yeah, you don't do anything super well, but you do everything okay. Basically, like you're
That's
okay
neat.
at everything.
That's neat. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, we've always got those. I think we all have those little couple like folk ideas that we haven't made, and I'm not sure if we would make and stuff like that. I like that. It's a neat idea.
I should play with it more. And if we're talking official,
sure.
I don't know if you want a part 2.
Yeah.
What makes Prophecy I really like as a quirky folk eye. I forget what book that's from. But at tier 1, you basically get the ability to ask a GM or ask the GM a vague question. Like you basically can tell the future by talking to the GM as like your oracle or whatever, basically.
Yeah.
Which I think is very quirky. I haven't really seen it used too much outside of a very short-lived play-by-post game I tried to play. And the usage of it in that short span was extremely entertaining and fun. And definitely one of the quirkier ones, like because you're basically talking to the GM constantly, like
it's a meta conversation.
Yeah, exactly. And the player who did it wasn't really meta about it at all. Like he played it very in character, and I feel like there has to be that certain kind of buy-in with the player for it to work super well. Like, they can't try to over-game it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was super fun, I'm not going to lie, and I actually want to try it myself at some point.
I don't remember what that one's from. Godforsaken, maybe?
No, this is an old one.
Oh, is it an old one?
It might be Expanded Worlds, even.
Expanded Worlds? Maybe.
Perhaps.
I don't know. I get them all. I've got them all plugged in the Foundry now, so I don't even remember where half of them come from. So.
It makes Prophecy. I love it.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. I like that. All right. Well, before we get into the like some more community questions here and everything, one thing I also like to ask, and if you can't think of anything, that's fine. I could edit it out. But do you have any questions for me? Any questions? Because it's a back and forth conversation. Do you have anything you wanted to know about the Ked Hub? The Arcus.
Where do you get off being such a good guy?
It's the law. I'm Canadian. I have to follow the law. We put our badness into geese, and then we just deal with it. I'm sorry.
Oh, that was such a good conversation on the server. The Cobra chicken or whatever.
The Cobra chickens? Yeah, Cobra chickens. That's another name for them.
No, but really, as far as questions go, like, not really. Like, when can we expect to actually see Dungeon Slugs or whatever the actual title is? Because I actually do. I love roguelites. I love what you've shown me, like the art. When will we see that for reals?
Well, I mean, you'll never see it. You won't see it on the Cypher Unlimited community because it's not a Cypher game. It's its own custom system. So unfortunately,
I still want to see it though.
Yeah. I'm super excited to share it amongst all of you guys that want to see it. Unfortunately, like because it's a Cypher community, I won't be sharing it on Cypher Unlimited. But if you guys that know me on there want to see it, it will be shown very soon. I'm actually like the rules are basically all done. We've got to do some beta testing. And I'm in like the layout process right now, and I've got basically all of the art done for it. I just need to finish doing the layout because I'm cranking it to 11 as far as the layout's concerned. So like I want to make it pretty. And so it's taking me a little bit longer. I'm hoping that we'll have beta testing starting within the next 3 to 4 weeks, and hopefully the book will be out in the next couple of months. But people are going to start seeing it pretty soon, hopefully. So we'll see.
Nice. If you need anybody on a Saturday to play test,
you got it. That'd probably be one of the main days I'd do it too, because that's like I've got a Powered by the Apocalypse game I'm playing on Saturdays, but that's a day where like he's got a lot of like family events and stuff that happen, so there's a lot of weeks we have to call it off. So it's also the day we would use to like play test stuff and everything. I think I want to play test. I'd like to do a play test of Vagabond soon, because Terran's like he's got his Kickstarter on it right now, and I really hope the Kickstarter picks up steam a little bit more, because he's over the half mark, I think, now. But I want to see that done so badly. So yeah. All right. Yeah. No, we will see Dungeon Slug pretty soon. Soon-ish.
Yes.
All right, let's get into some community questions here. I remember I perused a bunch of them a while ago to make sure there was nothing bad, but I haven't really sat down to think of them per se, because I like to go through them and answer them with my guests and what we're going on. So we're gonna go through and we're gonna get a couple of random ones here. Hit the old random button. We are starting out with Imagined Initiative asks. That's kind of a neat name, actually. How do you balance combat encounters with roleplay and other elements of the game? I have a hard time getting the right ratio down. Some people tell me it should be like a 60-40 split. Some people say 40-60. What should I do?
I'm already here shaking my head.
Yeah.
So, best advice here, and really, again, take my advice with a grain of salt. I have not been GMing for a century or whatever. I'm not a super whatever. Either way, when it comes to something like that, it's really what your table enjoys most. There's no definitive percentage answer for this. None at all. Some tables enjoy 90% combat, 10% roleplay. Some enjoy vice versa. You need to find what works for your table and the people you're running for. And if you're running for strangers, I would say try to make it 50-50 if at all possible. And in the beginnings of the game with strangers, you can kind of see what they like. You can lean in that direction as the game progresses. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's a set formula at all for anything like that. I think you kind of just have to play to what your table enjoys.
1000% agree. I think if you are able to do a session 0, I think they are basically mandatory these days. You should be getting a bead on your table, because even if it's the same table, sometimes you play a different campaign differently. Sometimes your table might be like, all right, we've done enough combat. Can we be narrative on the next one? Session 0 is a very important. Even if you can't do a full session 0, at least half an hour chit chat just to get a bead on your lines, your veils, and what is the expectations of the game, if at all possible. This 60-40 split thing, I've heard those numbers before. I have no idea where they come from.
I've never once heard those percentages before.
I think that's more of a D&D thing. I think it's like a D&D thing where they're like, oh, you should be a 60-40 one way or the other. I don't understand it. It doesn't matter. It's what your players are in, and it doesn't even have to be the same through the whole campaign. On my Sunday games, there are times where we'll have a couple sessions where it's very combat heavy because they're looking for action. They're looking to get into the thick of things. And then we'll have a few sessions where they literally go fishing and make canoes. There's no action whatsoever because that's what they want to do. It is hard to improv. I understand that. Not everyone can do it. That's my bead. 99% of my games I pull out of my ass. But yeah. And especially, I think a lot of Cypher people tend to be that way. But if you're in games where maybe you don't do as much improv, that's fine. But there's nothing wrong with just having a person and chatting for a while if that's what they want. As Al here says, it really is up to your table and what they want. And it's up to you what you want as the GM as well. I mean, don't forego your own desires and needs at the table. You're there to have fun as well. If you want to just chuck some dice and see things die, then go ahead, run a little more combat. And if you just want to sit back, role playing is great, especially when the players are super invested. There are times in my Windermere Fantasy Online thing, I've sat back for half an hour, 40 minutes, haven't said a word. I just get there I just make notes and stuff while my players go at it. Gives you a break. There's nothing wrong with that. Definitely
don't. I would say as a final point, don't limit yourself to a formula, a percentage formula. Definitely try to get that out of your mindset if you can.
Yeah, I try not to be that's bad advice, but imagine an initiative, whoever gave you those 60-40 ratio, that's bad advice. Don't restrict yourself.
Yeah.
All right, next one is by, I don't know how to pronounce this, Nerdrator? I have no idea. Nerd Raider, maybe? A narrator? Nerd Raider? I don't know. I'm a little torn on random encounters. Some people say not to use them. Some people say it's a great way to help fill the gaps. I'm not sure what's best here, what to do.
So this is another weird one, right? So I think this really comes down to the kind of game you're trying to run, right? Some games it makes sense to have random encounters. Some games just straight up doesn't make sense. It depends on what story, what game, blah blah blah. I don't know what system or whatever these questions are like aimed or talking about.
Usually D&D
as a whole. Yeah. So I don't know.
Well, I can step in here. The way I use random encounters is not like I don't use them as filler, just like you're walking through the forest, time for random encounters now. Random encounters to me are a tool to tell you that area is dangerous. If you're just walking through the forest and you're going from one town to another, you don't need random encounters. That's just filler, and it can kind of get boring after a while. But if you don't use random encounters, then suddenly they go into an area where you do use random encounters. That lets the players know, okay, this is Danger Town.
Yes, I would say that would be the way to use it, if at all. I feel like putting random encounters just stretches the game for no reason if there's no story reason behind it. Like, you can just give them loot by finding it on the floor if that was the reason for the battle. Like, there's no... Like, there's literally no reason to, like, if you want them to expend their resources, have an obstacle be in their way that they have to use their resources to get over. It doesn't have to be a fight every single time. So yeah, like Ted said, I would try to use random encounters if there's a story basis for it. If it'll help tension or some kind of beat I'm trying to hit, then yeah, I would throw a random table. But I feel like most of the time I don't even bother with them because I would say like 90% of the time they don't really add anything to the narrative.
I think the way I use random encounters, and they're not really like, I don't know, it's almost weird. They're not random encounters because they're almost pre-planned. But like anyone that's watched my streams, sees that sometimes they'll see my screen switch over to what looks like a hex grid. And there's like an icon on it. And I get the players to roll 2d6. And each of these d6s is a direction. And that's the way I do dungeons, is like, instead of like a table or like rolling percentile or something, they roll 2d6 and they go through the hex grid and I cross them off as they go. And that's how I determine what order the events happen in. Maybe it's not the same as a random encounter per se, because like there's a set of events and I'm going to have them go through most of them. But that's kind of the way I do random encounters. It's not quite the same thing. It's not just like random.
Yeah, I actually, that's awesome. I did not know you did that. That's really cool. But yeah, like even if you were to use a random encounter table, you should also be curating that list so that the monsters on the list are relevant, or not monsters, my baddies, whatever have you, are relevant to the story at hand. You don't want them in a tundra and then fire elemental. Like, where the hell did fire elemental come from? Like, just because you rolled it on a table, that's silly.
Yeah, it definitely curate it. Have a reason to have it. Just a random counter just because you need to pad time. There's got to be other ways you can do that. Or even like, there's nothing wrong with being like, hey guys, like let's take like a 10-minute break. I need to have a thought here for a second. I wasn't expecting you to go this way, and I'll figure something out. Instead of, I don't know what's happening. Random encounter time, which it feels empty if you just keep using it that way, honestly.
Yes. Yeah. That is solid advice. Take that time out, take your 5, regather your thoughts, and think of a narrative way to go in that direction they chose instead of, there's a monster in your way now. Like, I got video games for that. Like,
I think a lot of GMs forget, like, they don't have to be perfect. If you make a mistake, or you don't know what you're doing, or like you need a breather or something like that, it's other adults at the table. Just be like, hey, I fucked up. Can we like retcon this? Or like, hey, I would like to play this differently. Can we do that? Or hey, can we take like 15 or maybe even like end an hour early tonight just because like I'm not sure what to do here and I want to think about it. Generally, your players are like, yeah, sure, fine. Like they're not expecting like God tier things from you. It's okay. Okay. Let's do one more. We can do one more. RPG Rouser. I think it's Rouser. asks, I have so many campaign ideas and so many things I want to run. Don't we all? I'm also still having tons of fun with the games that I run. But every time game time approaches, I just feel tired, like I don't want to do it. Why do I feel DM burnout right now?
Is that person me?
Oh, okay.
Did I go in alternate universe? Because literally that's exactly how I feel. Anytime I go to run, and I don't even run campaigns, I run one-shots, right? Mm-hmm. So I always have tons of one-shot ideas, and I'll have this Gods of the Fall campaign idea rattling around my mind. And every single time I go to run a game or get ready to run a game, I feel awful, tired. Like I hope somebody cancels. Let somebody cancel, please. then I don't have to do this, please. And it's literally like every single time almost. And once the game actually starts, all those feelings go away. I don't know if it's the same situation for RPG Rouser, but for me, all that stuff, all that doubt or whatever have you, goes away as soon as I'm in the thick of it. So I'm trying to, my New Year's resolution for this year is to run more games. And I think I've run more games this year than I ran in already, May or whatever, than I ran all of last year, period. Like, just entirely. Nice. Like, I'm trying to do it more. And mind you, I've only run like 3 games. And that's already more than I did last year because of these I did. And I think it's helping to actually just play more. Mm-hmm. So now I have a one-shot plan for next weekend with my friends. Not even see you guys, just literally my IRL friends. I convinced them to play some Path of the Pain Planebreaker. And I'm excited for it. I have a plan for the one-shot, and I don't normally, even like a week before I have a game plan, I'll have that feeling of dread or like tiredness, like, oh shit, I hope one of them cancels on the day of so that I don't have to worry about this anymore. I'm actually excited now, like, for the day to come. Like, hey, we're gonna sit down, we're gonna play. That might change once the actual hour before the game, because usually all this hits like maybe an hour before. Like, hey, oh shit, I hope somebody cancels. I don't want to do this anymore. Like, but at the moment, I don't see that happening. Okay. And it's a nice feeling. And I think it's coming from just sitting down and playing more. Again, I don't know if you ever go through anything like you play a ton of. I don't know. And this is not just you, it's just anybody who plays like more than like 1 or 2 games a week. That is absolutely wild to me. Like, I don't know how the hell you got whatever, like that you have the energy to do that once a week is insane to me. But yeah, I think it's helping my energy levels, or at least me getting used to it and not having it affect my energy levels just by doing it more often.
I think for me, for running games, I don't tend to come across this too much, at least now, because there was at one point I was trying to run multiple games a week. I burned out so fast. But that's just because, running multiple games a week is insane. You probably should not be doing that. Running 1 game a week, I don't generally have this issue. But for the games that I'm players in, despite the fact that I have some amazing GMs, there's some amazing games that I'm in and stuff, there are times like I think it's because like I try not to show it. Like I show as like, bubbly person. I interact with people and stuff. I'm introverted as all hell. I can be perfectly fine not talking to anybody for weeks. I have a very limited social battery. So there are plenty of times when games are happening and I go, I hope the GM's sick today. Because my social batteries are down and I recharge by being alone. So much so that like Mondays, like even my girlfriend leaves me alone. Like Mondays is like my recharge day. I hide in the basement. I generally don't talk to people. And I just I play like a farming sim or just like something quiet. And I go do some woodworking out at the shop on the farm, something like that. And I just tell everyone to screw off. You might be having these feelings of tiredness or anything. It could be a social anxiety, or you could just be like a lot of us, just somewhat introverted, and maybe your social batteries are low. Maybe you just need to find a way to recharge those in your best way. It's okay to not be okay when it comes to that stuff. You just maybe you need to recharge. You never know.
And I will say this, and Anthony will tell you this, or I guess you can ask Anthony. The number of times I called out of our D&D game, was numerous because I just didn't have the energy, the wherewithal to be like, I'm actually going to go. But again, it's kind of different in that day and age. This was before online was super popular, so we were actually meeting in person, and it was kind of a hassle to actually do all that. So that's another thing on top of it. If you're playing in person, if you have a commute, if you have like other things to take into consideration when getting to your game, it can be a toll. It can definitely take its toll on you. And there's nothing wrong with, people are people, but especially if this is your regular group, they should be understanding. Like, hey, I'm not up to it today. I'm gonna stay home and relax, whatever have you. Like I don't feel too great. And if they're your friends, or if they're rational adults, they'll just understand that, and they'll either reschedule or just play without you, which again happens a lot in RPGs where one person can't make it, and either that character sits out or the group plays as that character, whatever your situation is.
I think people are a lot more understanding of mental health and everything these days, or at least the people that I would interact with. There are plenty of that don't. But it's okay to just be like, hey, I'm just not able to today. I just can't even. Even look like my buddy Bad Hair Gaming. Like I think he canceled Friday because he's just like, listen, like it's been a week and I just can't. And everyone's like, yeah, that's cool. Like they were going to get together and do like a preemptive session 0 for because that campaign's coming to a close. They're going to we'll work on a preemptive session 0 for the next campaign because it's a different GM. They're rotating out. And they're like, that's fine. We'll find something else to do. Like go enjoy, like recharge. And like no one, everyone's fine with it. No one's going to judge you for it. It's okay.
Yeah, because at the end of the game, at the end of the day, it's just a game.
Yeah.
Again, there will be other opportunities to play. So if you're not up to it, there's no reason to force yourself if you know you're going to have a lousy time because you're not in the proper headspace or whatever have you. It's more than okay to say, hey, I'm going to bow out for tonight. We're going to reschedule or whatever. And I've definitely found that adopting that helped with my mentality when it comes to running games as well. Yeah, that it's okay to not be okay sometimes.
And don't let people bully you if it's an online game being like, well, it's online. You don't have to leave your house and it's only a couple of hours. It's like, no, it's better to not have game than to have a shitty game that night. It's okay. Go play a video game, or as soon as Dungeon Slug is out, that's exactly what that RPG is meant for, because you don't even need a GM for it if you don't want. And it takes 2 seconds literally to make a character. So, okay. All right. I've had you here for 80 minutes going on. So definitely over that hour mark that I promised, as always happens. I think this is about the same amount of time I had Jess on and basically everyone I've ever had on here. I don't think anyone's the only person I've ever had that's been under an hour. Unfortunately, that video was taken down because of various reasons, I guess.
Oh boy,
bad people. Yeah, that was the one where I wanted to branch out because I wanted different viewpoints. I don't want just people that have the same viewpoints as me. I want to see what other viewpoints are out there. And I had a guy that was very much on the right leaning side, and we had very differing viewpoints, although we were both very civil about it. He actually even changed his mind on a few things at the end, which I was very happy about. But unfortunately that video got downvoted and reported to hell. So that one's gone. But every other video I've had, every interview I've had has gone well over an hour. So yeah, it's always been super fun. So thank you for coming on. It was a really nice chit chat that we had. Is there, before we go, of course, we always love, is there anything you want to plug or talk about with Cypher Unlimited coming up? I don't think you guys have any big events coming up or anything, but.
So as usual, if you like Cypher System, join the Cypher Unlimited Discord. We've got over 5,000 members. You want to play games, you can find a game there, or just want to talk about the system. It's an awesome place to do it. We're on Twitch as well, YouTube, so definitely hit us up there if you want to see more stuff from the Cypher side of things. As far as big events, I don't think we have anything. We have, just as a sort of, not spoiler without spoiler, there is something in the works that should be pretty big, hopefully. I don't want to say too much about it because I don't really know the specifics too well. But it should be interesting if we get it off the ground and do it. I will say it is a community thing. Community. Yeah, I don't want to spill the beans too much, but it'll be a community event-ish type thing.
Something exciting coming soon. Pay attention and follow and enjoy.
Yes.
I like it. All right. And yeah, all the links will be down below to, of course, for all the Cypher Unlimited stuff and like his Twitters and all of that stuff. So you're going to want to join. And if you're not familiar with the Cypher system, like that's my RPG of choice right now. And I am proselytizing it all the way. As much as I love a lot of other RPGs, there's just something about Cypher that's it just works. And if you're going to play Cypher, you want to be part of the Cypher Unlimited community. So join it, go into the roles section, make sure you give yourself your roles. I know there's been some confusion lately, and like there was like a Reddit post lately where someone's like, why is there only one place to go? Yeah, well, it's the roles section. Give yourself some roles and you can see everything. But yeah, no, it is definitely a place to join. Thank you again, Al, for coming on. That was super good chat. As always, stay healthy, stay safe, and have a good one. Eh? There's a Kickstarter going on right now that I really want to see happen, and I think it needs a little bit of a boost. It is over halfway funded, and it still has 18 days to go, which is a fair amount. So you're probably going to want to back this if you can, and that's the Vagabond Tabletop RPG, done by Rebel Rouser Games. Honestly, it looks really good. Custom magic system. You can run it with or without a GM. The extended rest system. Everything about this is just so good. It started getting funded very quickly, actually. It's worth it. It's going to have 16 classes on launch, and he's got more on the back burner already. So there's already going to be extra things eventually added in future expansions. He's already got things set up for it. If you've watched any of his live streams, and he live streams the design for all of this, you'll see that he spends a lot of time fine-tuning the classes to make sure they're fun above all else. It's really worth it, and I really want to see this boosted. For those of you looking for a replacement for Dungeons & Dragons that isn't just like an old school meat grinder type game and has a sort of the same feeling but maybe a little bit more well balanced, you're going to want to check this one out. Vagabond Tabletop RPG. The links will be down below, and it's going to be worth it.